Hello. Hello, hello. It's drawing time. Get that pencil, get that paper, sticky note, Photoshop, whatever it takes. Take a little time to draw. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Just got up and this just started. There you go, get to drawing. Morning coffee. First thing of the day. Not a day without a line. Make a sketch, first thing in the day. What's up, bro? What's up? Hi, chat. Hello, fellow artists. Get to it. Get to drawing. Remember, you only need to draw for 5 minutes in any given day, and if you do, you did it. You're an artist. Everything else you add on top of that is a story, a little lie you tell yourself. So just throw your lines for today. That was my phone dinging. Just flipped it over, put it on Do Not Disturb. No disturbing me while I draw. That's the truth. Nogwil says, what if I can't draw right now? Just draw in your mind. Hey, Obsidian Grove, what's up? How you doing, man? How goes your art journey? Just sitting around making product, I hope. Gross. Gross is good. Hello, hi Thomas K. Any chance we could get you to do one of these sessions in MS Paint? You know, I think I spent enough time in MS Paint as a child. I think it's time to let it go. I started quote unquote digital painting in MS Paint when I was like 10 or 11 years old. I think my mom still has a printout of like this painting of Mega Man X that I did in MS Paint when I was a kid somewhere. I think she's got it tucked away somewhere. Are you doing this daily now? Well, I do this daily, but I don't stream it daily. I don't know, I've just been in a streaming mood lately. I don't usually have the time or the circumstances to do it, but I do for a bit here, so I wanted to take advantage. There were periods in my life where I was streaming every day, like 4-ish years ago. I was streaming on Twitch every morning for like 4 hours, 5 days a week. It was 1,000 years ago. It's fun, I've always liked doing it. It's like live drawing companion, and there's more companions. Assume that everybody in the chat is drawing and working at the same time. By the way, somebody asked in there, what do I do if I can't draw right now? Draw in your mind. Draw in your mind's eye. If you're at work and there's only a spreadsheet in front of you, just totally tune out from work and try to flash an ultra vivid picture of something from your imagination onto the Excel spreadsheet. Do whatever it takes. I want you to give me 10 reps of flashing an ultra vivid image of something from your imagination on top of an Excel spreadsheet right now. Go, go, go. I can't wait to adjust those horns once I merge everything down. Let's see if I just make this most interior area just very dark and very warm. See if I can get away with that. It's maybe a bit much, but we can raise the value when we aggressively slash some color in there in the opaque stages. That's fine. It would also be fine if it was bad. That's also fine. It's also fine if it's just not a success. We don't control how things come out in art, not completely. It's always okay to look at what you did and go, gross, and then keep going. I'm on the wrong layer for that. Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. Games by Mark Wolf says, hey, Steven, I think your demon might need a Balrog mouth, i.e. from Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring. Games by Mark Wolf, I think it sounds like your demon needs a Balrog mouth. I hope you are in your sketchbook drawing what you think of when you think demon right now. Make art, make art, make art. Besides, if we're going to get technical here, do Balrogs have mouths? I mean, are they shadows with forms, or are they forms with shadows? Fine, let's undo all of that. As far as I can go, naturally. Now let's redo it on this one. I'm doing everything I can to earn those silly ass eyebrows on this demon. Just a little bit of neck work here. Yeah, okay. It's gonna be... We're gonna have some serious bounce light issues with this one, as I've already discussed, but... Where there's a will, there's a way, until I get bored and decide to change gears and do something else. But until then, there's definitely a will and there's definitely a way. Too strong, that one. Drink of water. Stay hydrated, everybody. Save. Remember to save a lot. You should spend as much time saving as you do drawing. Sam Lamb, thank you for roaring. Thank you for the inspirational yell. Ariadne, I'm glad that my little quip there made you keep drawing. I think anything that keeps you drawing, long term, short term, is good. This is healthy for the artist. The artist is an animal who must make pictures. Unfortunately, the artist also invents a million different reasons to not make pictures. And that is the war. Anything that makes you not make the pictures was a bad choice. And anything that makes you make the pictures was a good choice. That's the struggle. That is the struggle that is a non-struggle once you get it. I flicked my eyes over to the chat to see Joseph saying, "My need for vengeance keeps me sculpting." Look, we all have different motivations at different points in the art journey. There's nothing wrong with that. Some huge amount of people undertake the art journey because they feel like they have something to prove. And that piss and vinegar keeps them going for years. Just a deeply felt motivation to show everybody that they are, in fact, actually quite a good artist. Some of the best artists that I know have been motivated by that simple primal desire. Perhaps some would say far beyond the point of utility. Perhaps to the point where they wish they could turn it off. gonna soften all of these little errant. These guys are always a problem. Let me turn them 90 degrees for no reason. Big area like this, no problem. Delicious. Very good idea. Everybody approves. This, those little islands, those floating little sardines of shadow in the brine of light. Whoa, that analogy fell apart fast. Case in point, they're a problem. You gotta watch out for them. You've got to at least know what you're getting yourself into when you throw those in there. Those contrasty little spots are implying that on that overall form, these sardines are the only thing that are true shadow. So that means you're going to have to make all of this interesting with almost no value change, because that's all non-true shadow, that's all halftone, that's all compressed plane changes in the light. In the classic contrast hierarchy. There is, of course, always room to push and beat it up, especially on a monster. Well, especially on anything fleshy and organic, because local value changes on skin are surprisingly intense once you tune into them. So they give you a lot of leeway for making certain areas lighter or darker at will, just because you feel like it. I hate having this many layers. I'm a little lost on... All right, so we got local value color changes, horn value and color change, overall key light, ambient and accent shadows within the overall shadow shape, value pass for the eyebrows. That's the one that was confusing me. I'm just gonna name that one so that I stop wondering what that third multiply layer is. So that's eyebrows, and those are the lines, which are very, very low opacity. I see people saying in the chat that I'm not hip. What? Come on. You couldn't possibly mean that. I don't believe it. We're gonna see, y'all. We're gonna see how far I can get on this before I have to walk my dog. Internet streaming, the views, the creation of content, the creation of art, none of it is more important than a dog's bladder. Dog's bladder takes precedence. It's priority number one. Let's fix some of these roll-offs off this shadow, because these are bothering me. They displease us. They're all too regular. The exact same roll-off. Which is fine for some people, but it's not fine for me. I'm not a man of refined taste, but I am a man of particular taste. What are you all typing so much for? You typing with one hand and drawing with the other? That does do a little bit from a great distance. It's like painting some rock on the side of a cliff in this guy's brow. Oh, let's pop out a little. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. No, I can't. I'm too much of a coward. I couldn't bring myself to do it. You bet this canvas is huge. It is not. I'm not sure what it is. It's not that big. Yeah, it's not very big at all. It's only 4.2K. I usually work way bigger than that. Usually around like 6K or something like that. But I knew I was gonna have a lot of layers on this one because I wanted to do these as a group and look at them all together. So I made it smaller. It does look like the Grinch. I am very okay with that. That's funny. I'll name him Grinch. That's better than Horned One. Looking for a variety of very tight rolls out of these shadows and then very soft rolls out of these shadows. It's not really about like working forwards, like understanding the form completely perfectly and making them in accordance with what I know to be true about this silly demon that I'm sketching. No, I just know I want variety, so I'm insisting upon it and inventing it and just forcing it in because I'm the boss of this drawing and I do not need to be enslaved to my arbitrary notions of what is necessary to earn variety or forms or changes in the structure. Yep. Sure. Let's have some of these teeth cast little shadows down onto the gums. You know, like they really would. Easy there, Photoshop. Easy. Easy, girl. Easy, Photoshop. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's just me. That's okay, Photoshop. Okay. That's a good girl. Yeah. You want a carrot? You want a carrot? Go on. I'm not gonna hurt you. Wow. Aren't you majestic? Incredible. I bet you've seen more PSDs than anyone can imagine. Will you let me saddle you, Photoshop? Would that be all right? Oh. It's okay. We'll go at your speed. All right, I need to stretch my hand. What's going on over here? Ooh, it's good. It's my left hand that's angry. It doesn't want to be using the keyboard. It wants to be rolling my kneaded eraser around instead. Oh. Hi, Eva. What's up? Some evil people in there. When I draw digitally, I always lose edges, and the finished piece looks kind of blurry. Are there any tricks for this? No, you just got to manually fix it. You just got to manually do a step at the end where you add sharp-edged things and calligraphic strokes and things like that. You could try some light workarounds like using unsharp mask and things like that at the end, but nothing beats actually manually inserting the thing that you are upset about. You know, with digital, digital is always muddying things up and making them boring. So yeah, you just got to do something about that by hand. Yonut Pop says, now that I catch you live streaming, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for always answering my questions on your YouTube videos. It means a lot. No problem. I used to be much better answering questions, but the flow of emails and comments has gotten beyond me. So I apologize to, for the comments, just so everyone knows, I do read most of the comments. I see most of everything. I'm pretty sure. So I just can't respond to everything, but know that your kind words and your well-wishing and your stories, especially anyone who writes like a block of text about like how something helped them or how it made them draw more. I definitely had a connection with that. I read that. Sorry that I don't have a lot of time to write back at all anymore. Same goes with my emails. The email stack, my task box in my email is ridiculously long right now. Workshop people, you don't have to worry. We've got that separate email. I get back to workshop people very fast, but just general audience, if you've emailed me recently, I really apologize. I have probably read your email start to finish and internalized your concerns or thoughts or anything that you wanted to tell me. It just takes a very long time to reply back in a thoughtful manner. So if you have sent me anything, just know that I appreciate you. I read it. If you were heartfelt, I felt your heart. If you emailed me something mean-spirited and angry, just know that I read it and internalized it and it ruined my day. And then I came up with a perfect retort in the shower, and then I never emailed it to you because I'm too busy to deal with your crap. That was a total joke. I don't think I've ever gotten a mean-spirited email, just for the record. Yeah, I read all the emails I get because they're basically universally a pleasure to read. All right. So so my problem here is that I don't want to go out and, fine. Can't let all of these hard edges out here on the horns sit undifferentiated, so I will just take a second to make these right and soften them into the shapes they need to be. Yes, the music is just Chilled Cow Lofi Girl. Thank you, Lofi Girl, wherever you are, for making your radio okay for streamers to use. You really made it so easy to pick your product. Thank you. Thank you, Lo-Fi Girl, wherever you are. Lo-Fi Girl is like on top of the building, above that person, brooding in a shadow. Softening up appropriately, getting there. Looking like forms, looking like forms. This is barely painting. This is just drawing everything that I'm doing here. This is nothing but drawing concerns. You think the monster is fancy? It is what it is? Well, thank you. A very proper sort of monster. A rather discerning sort of devil, I would say. Oh my. With those leering teeth, it seems like a very erudite sort of devil. He must be well read, widely traveled, respected in lands far beyond here. Perhaps he has even already got him names by the sons of Eve? Perhaps. Who knows what untold tortures and torments he has visited upon the son of the sons of God. Just got here, this reminds me of the Grinch. It is officially named Grinch if you look at the layer stack in the top left. Maybe it's because of the green eyes. Maybe that's what does it. Green eyes, fleek eyebrows. Sunlee says, wow, is that purely out of your imagination? Yes, this one is, yes. But it's like, don't care about that. That's not, it's not cool or good that it's out of my imagination. That's just what makes me do better work at certain steps in the process. It's like, you may look at this and say, wow, that's from imagination. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's from imagination, and it shows, you know, like that's very clear. I can just see all the elements that would be better if I had reference for them. You got to watch out for that stuff. I don't really think that's something people should pay attention to, whether something is from reference or imagination. Unfortunately, a lot of the times when people say, oh, you know, I did this from imagination, I'm like, you didn't have to say that. No, Gooch Canoe, don't do that. Go draw. Don't do this instead of drawing. You'll undo my entire life's mission with one fell stroke. Gooch Canoe undid Steven's entire life mission. I'm going to try to make some more interesting half-tone subshapes in this whole top area, because that being hit by the light, it's got to have some more interesting stuff going on. even though hopefully attention will still go to the eyes. So I'm just gonna look for flows and reactions in and out of the horns and stuff like that. Always going slowly, carefully. You don't always have to go slow when you're working, of course. There's appropriate times to go fast, borderline chaotic, totally thoughtless, and then there's other times where you should go slow and thoughtful. The trick is to just be choosing and not to be doing things out of compulsion and habit. Feeling free to reinvent the structures as I do this. It is very important to, at every step, always feel free to add information, to bend things, reconfigure them. If you don't do that, there's a tendency for the picture to get worse the longer that you work on it, because all you're doing is blurring, muddying, and borificationifying the thoughtless nonsense things that you put down at the start anyway, because they definitely were that, because you're not Bouguereau or Sargent. So I know you barely thought about what you were doing. You didn't spend a year on that drawing. You didn't think about it for months before you put it down. Please. You should always be making it better, considering how little effort you put into it at the start. It makes it more fun to render anyway, because when you do that, rendering stops being rendering. You're just drawing the whole time. And that's fun. Drawing, creating, inventing, dreaming, that's fun. Feeling like you're just doing some step in the process, not fun. Boring. So I like the new forms that I invented going on in the top of that head. Now there's like little, now he's got like a weird topography where like this has a valley and then it bumps out there. That's pretty interesting to me. That's weird. I like that. I'm gonna erase out some of the original lines because they are fighting the new forms and distracting me. So I'm just gonna get rid of them. Benyo says, I have a rule to only start shading after finishing all outlines. Maybe that's OCD. I wouldn't say it's OCD, but it's a pretty interesting, nuanced topic, I would say. Like most things, I think that it's about balance, right? Because here's the thing. When you're doing the lines and you have a rule like, okay, I'm not going to start shading until the lines are completely done, all the outlines are locked down. What you're assuming there, what you're implying, is that the lines are somehow an accurate representation of what the shadows should do, or the form. But the truth is that lines can never be an accurate indication of the form. They are an approximation. They deal with some aspect of the form, but the shading on the inside is always going to be more informative about that, right? They work together. So the idea that the lines judged in abstract with no values or large shapes to compare them against, the odds that those are just going to be perfectly in tune with what the best value shapes would be are, in my opinion, very low. And probably everyone has encountered the problem where you think your lines look really good if you're doing just pure line work, pure thin line work. And then the second you start adding the values, you start adding shading, you're like, oh God, these lines are all in the wrong place. My proportions were completely off. I wasn't judging correctly the internal space between these lines. I was only judging line to line. I think that happens much more often. So I think that a more balanced viewpoint might be, don't start shading until you are very happy with the lines, right? The lines excite you. They seem to imply a interesting configuration of forms, but be ready to discover when you look at the forms for real with value that the lines were deceiving you, that there were perhaps better configurations available, and be willing to edit them so that they jive with the new information that the drawing on the inside, that is to say the shading and the rendering, is giving you. I think that back and forth is, I mean, for my process, it's essential. I put value shapes into a drawing very quickly. They're low contrast. They're not super committal, but I draw with both lines and the value shape for most of the work that I do, so that I can preempt that problem where as soon as I start looking at the forms, they make me realize that my lines were proportionally incorrect or uninteresting or implying internal shapes that I didn't want. God, I love drawing. And that's getting much more interesting than what I had there before. Have some of the balance issues that always come up when you're spending this long rendering something that you drew in literally, well, I don't remember how long it took, but this drawing was not, I didn't do the sketch in more than 20 minutes or something like that, so. I have a lot of balance issues in the drawing from that. I can hopefully poke at a bunch of them once I merge everything down and I'm quote unquote painting. Just trying to make this big forehead area interesting since it takes up so much real estate in the picture. All right, that's a start. Leave some room there so that a bunch of highlights and stuff like that can do the rest of the work for us. Just a second here while I poke these ears. Secondary form, tertiary forms. Secondary form. Tertiary forms. Starting to elaborate some sub-shapes on these jaws. These hideous jaws! I've asked, I saw them and was afeared. He had like a gross mouth, like, yuck. What even was that? Gently erase into that so that there's a little more variation in that. And again, even while erasing, drawing, waggling my pen and looking for new shapes, more info to show the audience. Yeah, whatever. Hello, Kukurtsna. I can tell you what to do, James. I can. Cause talk is cheap, baby. If there's one thing I can afford, it's to say dumb crap like that. Oh boy. All right, what's up? The detail is great. Oh, that's very good. That's fantastic. Hello? Hello? James, you don't have to be told. You draw every day. You draw every day live on the internet. You tell everybody. You show him, James. Go get him. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'm glad you think it looks rad. Nibba says, would you say that in general, studies such as life drawing yield more learning if done traditionally rather than digitally? It really depends what you're after, I think. I just don't think generalizations like that ever apply in art. If, for example, you have no real interest in doing traditional art, if you're like very industry minded and you just want to be a digital artist, I have a hard time saying, oh, you have to do traditional then because it's like better for training. Like, I'd love to see the PDF on that. You know, I would really love to see the rigorous scientific study that proved that that's true. Everything in art is such just lies, just thoughtless, pernicious things that people said 15 years ago that have just been propagated as mind viruses over the internet. So yeah, I don't trust generalizations. I don't like giving blanket advice like that. The more important thing than that you be doing it traditional or digital is that you do the studies and don't give up when you've only done 100. Don't even tell anyone you've done any when you've done 200. Start assessing whether your studies, your life drawings are doing well after you've done maybe 500 or something like that. There's a blight in the current art world where people try something, a method or something that a teacher told them to do or something that they learned in a course. They try a method and they see that it's not giving results after 10 tries. And they're like, well, if this was really an effective learning method, surely I would see results after 10 attempts. Wrong. No, that's not how art works. Art has always been hard to learn. That's why hardly anyone can do it well. No, 10 is not enough. The benefits from studies and from mileage do not even occur after dozens of studies. They occur after hundreds of studies. And that's not meant to be demotivating. It's really not. I personally find it more liberating to have a realistic idea of the effort that is necessary to get appreciable returns rather than to be confused and lost on things like that. That's the real prison. That's the real pain. To just be utterly without ballast and floating in a dangerous sky of confusion. Oh boy, my freaking analogies they're unraveling themselves today. I'm going to go use the restroom. I'll be back in a minute. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. Just gotta stretch my hand. Stretch this old hand. What are you guys talking about? I'd like to ask a little thing, maybe using a quick layer on top of that or something. How would you take that same demon with this strong light and clear shadows and do it with more diffuse, soft lighting and less contrast and yet look realistic? It's not easy. There's a reason that I basically never do that, right? I find that very difficult, but how to explain this? So the basic idea, first you need to ask yourself, what is diffuse lighting, right? So here's a head. And when we have a directional light source, it's coming from up here, let's say, we get a core shadow that will snake something like this across the head, right? Or if we put the light up here, we get it like that. So when you have diffuse lighting, where is the light? What is the actual nature of the light, right? You're very rarely in a room that is light from everywhere. So diffuse lighting tends to come from two different sources. The first is it's not actually diffuse lighting. It's that the light is coming from the viewer, as if you had a strong flash on a camera, right? So in that case, we can't diagram it in the front view. So you need to imagine the side view. Oh my God. You need to imagine the side view of the head. The light is here, pointing straight at them from front on, right? So where does the core shadow go? It is perfectly coincident with the corner of the extremes of the silhouette of the face. That is to say, this is all the core shadow, right? So that is the real explanation, like the detailed explanation of why the way that you render diffuse lighting is that anything that's closer to you, let's say the yellow things like the tip of the nose, maybe the front of this cheek, the front of that forehead, those planes are pointing directly at us, the viewer, right? Those get lighter, and then as things roll towards the edges, turn away from the viewer, they get darker. So what I just said is like the rule in your pocket for how to do that kind of rendering, right? If it faces you, it gets lighter. If it turns away from you, it gets darker. And that's the only considerations that you make for diffuse lighting besides rendering with a soft tool, right? Like the airbrush or something like that. But this is the reason that that is occurring. And then that having that reason in hand helps you understand how that puts all of the contrast at the edges of the silhouette, and then that emphasizes the overall shape of the head, and then that is why that is the lighting that is often used for attractive photography of models and things like that. It bleaches out and de-emphasizes because it compresses everything that's in the light zone, and it emphasizes the overall bone structure because it's creating Terminator rolls along the extremes of the bone structure. So it's highlighting the structure of the cheekbones, the roll into the forehead, the shape of the jaw, things like that. I don't do it because I find it horribly, horrendously boring to paint. Yay! All right, what was I doing on this thing? I love painting ridiculous demons to this smooth, calm music. Thanks for joining me, people. I hope you're drawing. I really do. All my content is meant to be consumed while drawing. There is nothing more important than your drawing. That you be exercising your creativity. And you gotta use whatever precious time you have to sneak in some drawings. Nope, wrong layer. Thank you, Matteo. It is an honor to be your drawing companion. Thank you, Traveler. It has been an honor to be your drawing companion. Though you will do many drawings without me, I will always be with you in spirit. When you need me, simply speak to the wind. If you need an answer from me, blow ground up graphite powder onto a piece of paper and see what shape it makes. The answer will lie within. Gonna have to darken the shadows around the eyes because a lot of the darker pockets that I've dropped into these areas around it have made the shadows around the eyes look too light. I robbed them of their contrast. Woe is me. What folly was this? Cassiel says there is no evil and good, that's just gray tones of perspective and perception. Are we talking about art? You guys are drawing, right? You guys are doing that thing that you're always saying you want to do more of? You guys are drawing, right? I'm trying to draw, but I'm distracted by your drawing? Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Okay. That's my bad. And just get rid of that. There we go. Don't you dare. All right, I think we're all good now. I think Lucas B should be able to draw now. Dog? Are you serious? Don't look at me like that. Lay down. Go to bed. Just fall asleep. It wasn't anything. It's never anything. It's never once been anything. So why don't you just go back to sleep? Just boosting the saturation on the local color layer, because as we've said several times, as you work on things, you ruin everything good about it. And you take away all the color, the contrast, the clean shapes. So the colors that looked separated and contrasty enough before, as I painted and gave contrast to the shadows and everything like that, went away. See, that's no. That's full clown mode. So I'll just pull it way back. I'm looking at my bad second monitor as a judge. Yeah, it's just barely a change. It feels like a lot, but as we work, it will again become de-emphasized and become more and more monotone. Where's that working? Oh, down here. Why do all your demons resemble you a little bit? Oh, you know, obviously something Jung, something Freud, artist statement, etc., etc. Did you do any calibration to your monitor or tablet? I know some tablets or monitors have problems with specific areas of contrast. No, I've never had good benefits. I've never had benefits from that. Color correct, non-color correct, CRT, IPS, P3. The problem with digital color correction is that everybody sees stuff on different screens in different color profiles. I'll be honest. Me personally, for all intents and purposes, I would just don't worry about it. Like, who cares? It's like you could waste forever and tons of money trying to color correct everything, have everything in your setup be color correct and synchronized, and you know, the AD who's gonna hire you is still just gonna see it on Twitter on their frickin' cell phone. So good for you. Glad it's color correct for you, you know? I don't waste my time with any of that stuff. If I could give any advice, I would say calibrate for the lowest common denominator instead of for quality equipment. I always look at my OBS feed on my crappy second monitor when I'm working, and I try to make contrast and color decisions based on what shows up on a crappy monitor, because that's what most people are going to see the work on. Most people are not going to see the work on my P3 wide gamut 5K IMAX screen. Why is that not working? All right, face is fine. Where do I need to put shadow for the horns for me to feel okay with them? That's the big question. Where am I? Wait a second. Wait a friggin' second. No, we're good. Love this music. It's like I'm in a tropical paradise while I'm painting this Beelzebub. It's like I'm in a tropical paradise while I'm painting this Dagon. This Amarath. This Isis. Steven, where do you get your confidence from? From years of artistic validation from strangers, obviously. right, maybe I can leave it be there, those horns. Because the horns would really be, you know, these other heads up here, no hair, no horns, nothing. They just get done in a reasonable time frame because they're just little fleshy meatballs. But I knew when I did the horns on this one, it was like, ugh, that could just be 3 days on its own, and that's not the kinds of paintings these are. These are just nice, but quantity-focused demon portraits to make a nice page in my Pandemonium project to show a variety of demon types for the inhabitants of the city. Oh, it's just so hard because drawing, especially when you're like trying to make it better at every step, it's so hard to move on to the next steps because you can just, when you're really just trying to like, all right, I'm adding shadows right now, let me try to make it as good as I can just with the shadows and nothing else. It's like, oh, so fun. So fun. God, it's so fun. I just want to never move on. All right. Sam Reeves says, Steven, when you work with graphite, do you use anything to knock down the shine? Negative. I'm not bothered by graphite glare, personally. To me, it makes the original glitter like a jewel, and it makes it clear that the original is the original instead of a print. Makes it look like it's made out of precious metal or something like that. I'm quite a fan of graphite glare. I counter it when I'm recording for the sake of the videos. I position my lights very specifically and I draw on an angled board so that the glare goes directly into my freaking eyeballs instead of into the camera lens. But for the drawing itself, no, I don't do anything to fight the glare. Y'all don't know this. What I'm doing right now is the reason I am alive. That is it. Just that, just riding those little detailed forms, varying the roll-offs of their halftones. You couldn't pay me $1 million to stop doing this. You couldn't pay me $1 billion as long as you were trying to cut the deal alone. If my wife was in the room, I'd take the $1 billion. If you were trying to ruin my life alone, I'd be like, I'm not going to take the deal, but look, you're not going to tell my wife I said no to $1 billion, right? Just be cool, man. Come on. All right, let's start. Oh, jeez. Let me think about that for a second. Theodore says, what would you suggest as practice to get better at generating designs and ideas? Do designs. You don't need to practice designing if you want to be a designer. You don't need to do abstract studies to practice being a designer. Just really do the thing. If you want to design characters for video games, just do that over and over and over again. Easier said than done, I understand, but there is no real practice, no abstract practice that trains you to do that. Only doing it trains you in doing that. There's useful knowledge. That's not to say that there isn't useful knowledge that can help you there. But that knowledge is not, it's not necessarily something you study. The knowledge is stuff to keep in mind while you do those things. But the actual practice that you do is you just, as close as you can figure it out to do it, you just do the thing that you want to do. That's it. And if your gut reaction to that is like, it's too overwhelming, it's too many parts to handle it, there's way too many moving pieces to that, I have no idea where to get even started. That's what designing is. That is what designing is. If you had all of the answers for designing something, you wouldn't be designing. You would just be illustrating. The whole point of design is that questions must be answered. And they're not easy questions. They're hard questions. That's why design is difficult, and when it goes well, it's really noticeable and great, you know? It's supposed to be tough, so jump in. And when I say tough, I don't mean stressful, right? It never needs to be stressful. That's just like a mental thing that we add on, but it's like tough in a challenging way, you know, like tough in the sense that like taking on your evenly matched friend in a sport, you know, is tough. You're not stressed. Hopefully you're having fun. Hopefully you're not having like raw, mean-spirited competition against your friend. It's just pleasantly challenging, you know? I'm not going to go too far into this next step because we are at 2 hours here. And as I said, nothing is more important than my dog's bladder. So I'll be jumping off soon. So I don't want to go too far into adding a bunch of lights because I'll be rushing it. But I'll just start dropping some stuff in while we wrap up here. Am I seeing that right, that your shade layers are varying degrees of gray? That's interesting because I have been told to never shade in grays or blacks. They're not quite gray. They're just very desaturated. But if you look at my multiply layers, well, it'd be very annoying for me to show them isolated, but if you look here on the color wheel, let me get my eyedropper, set it to current layer, have to remember to put that back. If we look at this pass of shadows, if I click around, you see they have some color in them. They're not black, they're colored grays. If this picture was really saturated, this area of gray would never read as a color, but because the whole picture is pretty desaturated, it still feels kind of colorful because the contrast range remains for the color space. Ooh yeah. The contrast range. For the color space. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Alright, let me actually want to be more thoughtful here about what direction I want to swing the lights in. Also, feel free to shade with black. Don't listen to anybody's rules. The person who told you that rule probably goes home and shades with black every day. And then when they're done with the black, they hide it under a floorboard. I don't know if I want to do these cooler lights. I'm just slugging this in ugly to see if this is the color direction I want to go in. Doesn't that light up ever so nicely? All because we didn't get impatient and we actually made it good at every step. Nice things build upon each other instead of ruining the picture. Alright, so let me just shift those colors around slightly. Nope, that's saturation. My bust, everybody chill. Everybody chill. Oh, the greener hue is kind of interesting. The yellow is what my gut goes towards, but it's like, this winds up being the same temperature. It's like the highlights are warm, the center light is warm. Just has such a nice bleaching out as it steps out of the hottest parts of the highlight. Yeah, maybe I should just go cool. No, the redder ones are, oh, that'd be weird. That'd be quite silly. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it. See, the good thing if I go with a more neutral light for the highlights is that implies that the light source is neutral, and then I don't have to do a super warm bounce light coming back up into the shadows. I can just do a neutral bounce light coming into the shadows, which would probably be a little easier for me right now because that's the tone of the fills in the shadow right now anyway. So I wouldn't have to like do a reach and get a new color in there that I really don't want. If I do this, I don't have to do any of this, just, going by the rules of light, the laws of light. If I do that warm specular, that implies the light source is really warm, and then I'll need to come in here and bounce hack orange into these areas. I just haven't really planned for that. I don't really want it. I mean, it looks pretty 3D or whatever. You know what? Let's just go neutral. We can always ramp the colors again later. So all I'm doing is going for an overall light effect here. Like for all intents and purposes, I could just take the airbrush really broad and tap all around this guy's face. But instead of doing that, I'm going to, as we've done on every other step, draw carefully and sort of follow the forms as I do this overall airbrushy glow. Sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't, but I prefer to stay connected with my mental conception of the forms for as long as possible. Looking for diffuse areas and then little tight areas. Always trying to draw different shapes, even though everything is very soft. I want a variety of large shapes, medium shapes, and small shapes. Even with a top, it's usually a good idea to pick one side that's more lit. Like, you don't want to do the same intensity, both like left side and right side. It's like you might say, all right, the highlights are going to be a little stronger on that side, or the highlights are going to be a little stronger on this side. Do you guys like drawing? I sure do. All these passes are very soft. So when you do that, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know, it's okay to make mistakes, but it's nice if you understand the mistake that you're making. So because I know that all of these passes are very soft edge and low contrast, I will do a pass at the end where I really crisp all of this stuff up and get more aggressive with it. Oh, she's getting mad. She knows. She's got that dog internal clock. She's looking at me. She's like, I know it's 3 o'clock, Stephen. You seem distracted. Would you feel less distracted if I shit on the ground right next to you? I also just find it more fun to apply a lighting pass like this while just giving everything a little poke than just tapping all over with the airbrush. It's just more fun this way. Nah, he probably doesn't need it on his buff boy shoulders. He probably doesn't need it. I mean, I need it. I really want it to go there. I really want to put shiny speculars on the buff boy shoulders, but might not be what the picture needs. All right, let's just very quickly. All right, so there's a general lighting pass, right? So there it is off, there it is on, but I like drew it in instead of just tapping it into stuff. Yeah, we gotta figure out some way to make it look good on the horns. I have to pick a different color. I know this also begs the question, how shiny do I want the horns to be? I probably want to have a different level of specularity than the flesh. That's quite a question. It's like, do I want to go like really hot? Like I could work up to some really hot, like ram's horn speculars out here. Boop, boop, boop. Some of these valleys. But if I'm gonna do that, I gotta darken them considerably, and they're already in danger of disappearing against the black background. It does look kind of charming though. Kind of looks like he has a galaxy with stars floating on the back of his head. It's kind of nice. Something to think about. I probably shouldn't rush that. Could split the difference on all of that. Just undo, actually. All right, let's upset me by playing with the hue here. So that neutral looks quite neutral indeed. I do like it greener. It's not bad. Huh. Oh, I was expecting to be compelled by the orange speculars, but I am not. I think I like the green better. kind of works with the neutral, more neutral shadow colors. I don't think I've done anything that has a green cast to the light either. That'll be a tricky one to carry through to the next stages of painting. It'll be hard to maintain that green feeling. It's kind of interesting too. See, that makes the midtones look much too grave. Neutral, green, too green. You know what? Why not? It's in danger of not looking yellow. And when I started this, I wanted to get a green head, a red head, a yellow head. He's almost gonna become green like his buddy up there. Well, let's say that for now. I can always recolor it before I crunch things down. Oh my god, why are you guys talking about Breaking Bad? You guys gotta draw more. Talking about Breaking Bad is not gonna make you better at drawing. Green also pushes us closer to the Grinchdom of this demon. Yeah, I like that modeling that I got from the variation there. All right, I don't want to rush the next steps, so let's just leave it there for now. Just looking at it very tiny to see if it reads. I think it does. I think it does read. It feels 3D-ish up top. It feels formy. I can see the whites of the teeth, even very, very tiny, and I can just barely make out that there's red gums underneath those teeth. Horns sit back. Yeah. So, yeah, let's just call this for now, and then when we come back to this next time, we will actually paint. Instead of all of this prep work, all of this ground line, we'll actually paint it. We'll wrap it up quick. These are quick little paintings, These are all just like 3 or 4 hours. These are nothing. It's nothing for a painting, Jesus. They're just quick little guys. All right. Any questions or anything before I head out? What labyrinthine path of logic and reason could have made you all arrive at all of these Breaking Bad references? Who knows what happened? Talking about Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint. I was just kidding. It is painting. It's just everything that I'm doing is not what a lot of people think of as painting. It's just all very careful, like soft structural work. But that's the stuff that matters, you know, the juicy painting on top and everything like that is really it hinges on the base structure that you build. But I'm just joking. It is painting, obviously. Obviously, I'm painting. Emma says thumbs up on keeping the eyebrows. I'm fighting so hard, Emma. I insisted once I threw them in there. I was like, they've got to make it all the way through. They're so dumb that they need to be on the final demon. So I'm working hard to keep them in there. The part of me that's just like, you know, wants it to look like every other demon I've ever seen. It's just like, delete them, get rid of them. Demons don't have eyebrows, but I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to my guns. Rastko says, why are you drawing my mom? She's a beautiful lady. I want to honor her. She has such a memorable visage. Oh, you know, it's always a fun way to break your spirits is at the end of a session. Just throw quick levels over it and see how far off from strong contrast you are. This is the necromancer's choice. As if a necromancer did Steven's paintings. This is the extreme edgy version of my picture. Yeah, this is a fun little diagnostic to run at the end of a session all the time, because your eye gets very used to the contrast that you are seeing. And your eye gets very used to the contrast that you're seeing. So while you're working on stuff, you always look at it and you're like, yeah, it's broad. That's a big value range. Like, it makes sense that the shadows are that dark, the shadows are this light. And then you can kind of like snap your eye out of it by grabbing levels and messing with it. And it doesn't mean push it, right? It's just a diagnostic tool. But then you can kind of like come off of it little by little, and ask yourself, well, is it actually in the contrast range that I wanted? Most of the time it's not, but sometimes you actually got it pretty damn close on the first pass. Yeah, I'll worry about that at the end. I'll just keep painting in the range that I'm in. I don't like going crazy with adjustment layers. It makes me sleepy. It makes me not want to make pictures. Necroval says, how outlandish and unconventional do you like your demons? I just like good, interesting form. That's really what I like seeing in anything like that. It's like, it can be super outlandish and strange, and if there's no moment of beautiful form, I'm not into it. And it can be very, very conventional, like a very classic demon, and if there's some new and exciting configuration of large shapes to small shapes and ingenious transitions from one form into another, I'm into it. I'm inspired. The recommendation is to learn gesture first, then anatomy, but I find much more enjoyable doing gesture after learning a good amount of anatomy and proportions. How did you do it? I think it's just a back and forth. I mean, you can't quote unquote like learn anatomy or learn gesture, you know? They're such deep topics, they're such deep discussions, they're infinite, they're functionally infinite. So you just need to run them in tandem. You need to spend a little bit more time thinking about gesture, spend a little bit more time thinking about anatomy, and let them bring each other up together. Mohit says, can you tell about your brushes? I use all sorts of brushes. Ahmed Al-Duri's brushes. I use his. You can go get those for free on his Gumroad. But everything that you guys have been watching me do here, I've just been doing with the Airbrush. That's all I've been using for this entire stream. Just the regular soft round. That one. I've just been using that and the solid version of it. I've barely touched anything else. I've maybe just squished it over here so that it was sharper a few times. But all of the important work is just done with very basic tools. This froze. I hope hope that's saved. Whatever, just in case. It's at more than 100% anyway, so. Any advice for animators? It's difficult to relax and feel free. I feel it demands such a high degree of conscious effort. It often feels like this overwhelming juggling act. Unfortunately, I can't give any good advice for animators. I've never done animation, seriously. Go check out Modern Day James. He can probably give you good advice. He does a lot of animation, and he's very good at it. Key Raid says, any tips on shading muscles? Keep the values close. Be subtle. Muscles are very small. On most bodies, muscles are very small plane changes in relation to the muscle or the plane that's directly next to them. So keep it subtle. Lucas says, I'm torn between drawing grotesque creatures and cute anime girls. You're stuck on either end of the spectrum, huh? Do both. Maybe do pictures that have both monsters and cute anime girls on them. All right. Well, what balance between creative exploration and technical training would you recommend to people earlier in their art journey? Be creative the whole time. I personally recommend a 50-50 balance, you know? I would be very careful to dip below that. It's unfortunately very possible and easy to completely forget how to do projects and how to do your own pieces because of technical training. For even 4 years is really enough to completely make it atrophy for people a lot of the time. And it actually makes perfect sense why that happens. When you do abstract studies, you're improving something about drawing, but you are also cementing and improving the habit of doing studies. And you are not improving the habit of doing creative pieces. Of course not. You know, you're only improving the particular habit that you're practicing. And if you don't ever balance it for 4 years, say, and then you go to do your own creative pieces, you will have no groove for it, no process, and you will suffer incredible resistance because every time that you try to buckle down and do your creative pieces, you're going to realize and be tormented by the fact that in that same amount of time, you could have done 6 beautiful studies. And it'll just keep dragging you back to the thing that you have a deep groove for. And it takes a lot to dig yourself out of that, to unwrite that once you get stuck in that. It's just pure incentives and habit. It's a very unfortunate situation to get stuck in. So I would advise anybody to not let it happen. I'm gonna ban Cassiel right before I turn off the stream so that he knows I don't like him, but he didn't miss anything and he wasn't left out. Because I know that when you're feeling that unstable and crazy and have too much free time, it really hurts to be left out. So I'll just ban him right before I end the stream, just to please myself, just to make myself feel good. Let's see what Emma says. Any tips on patience when drawing? Personally, I can get some of my best drawings by letting loose and getting things down quickly, but a calm pace would also be good for me. Yeah, I think patience is available in any mode that you're drawing, right? You can be drawing very fast and loose and being very patient with that, and you can be very zen-like and being very patient with that, of course. But if what you feel is that you're having trouble getting down to the calm pace, a few things that worked for me is, don't do this forever, but just try it, is mechanically choosing to draw at half speed. Just between every stroke, giving myself a breath and thinking for a moment. And when I'm putting the stroke down, choosing to draw slow enough that I'm like, okay, this is a little slow. This is way noticeably slower than I normally draw. Just choosing that for myself mechanically, and then letting that slowly become more and more comfortable, and then letting the flow arise from that. And then the other thing, I would say the main thing to keep in mind is that you don't really need patience if you dissolve into the piece at the scale that you are working at it. You know, if you feel like you want more patience, like you want a calm pace when you're, for example, doing details, right? There is a way to do details where they are fun and they excite you and they're a pleasure to do. And then you don't really need patience. Then you're very happy to just be there with them for a very long time. So I actually wouldn't force it if you're finding that you're feeling impatient at certain parts of the process. I would instead encourage you to analyze where your rushing is coming from. What about the step that you're doing is upsetting you that you sort of want to wrap it and get out of there? And just once you identify it, just dream up a way that you can make it more fun. You know, that's easier said than done. But that really is what has made the biggest difference for me. I just took all of the parts of my process that made me go to sleep, and I didn't let anybody tell me that I needed to do them. I just said, okay, I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to replace it with something else, or I'm going to skip it completely. And I just tried to make every step that I go through be completely luxury couture tailored to just what I like and not what anybody else likes or what anybody else says I'm supposed to be doing. And once I did that, which took a long time, right? It takes a lot of introspection and self-analysis. There was no effort needed. Then it was just easy to do all the steps. They were all the pleasure. They were all a pleasure. I hope that answers your question. Have you ever felt your creativity has hit a wall, or you're just struggling to level up your ideation? All the time. Truly, all the time. But it's just, those are just feelings, you know? Like, if you're a creative person, your creativity has probably been with you for years and years and years and years. Don't worry about it. Like, just keep going. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. Your creativity wasn't some rare rose that bloomed in an icy wasteland and then disappeared. It'll stick around. It'll come back. You just wait. You just be peaceful through the down slide. I've had tons of down periods. I've had tons of periods where I'm just like, why? I should have done something else. I'm crazy. Why did I ever pick this? You just ride it out. Those are just feelings. They arise for, no one knows why feelings like that arise. You know, they just arise from life conditions, and then they pass away from life conditions. And if you hold them in that place, it's perfectly valid to just let them come and go. It's perfectly valid. Just let them come and go. Don't know if you know much about it, but do you have any tips on drawing clothes or folds? Check out Barbara Bradley's Drawing the Clothed Figure. That's one of my favorite art books. I had that one when I was really young. Great drawings in it, and by my estimations, the best introduction to the costumed figure in book form. It's one of my favorite books. I've had that one for years and years and years. I think I got my hands on it when I was like 14 or something like that. Yeah, check out that book. That's the best one I've seen. Here, give me a second. It's this one. Looks like that. A very unassuming cover, but in this unassuming book lay some of the best drawing secrets out there. Great book. Great drawings in this one too. She's such an excellent draftsman. I've copied that one tons of times. I remember drawing that one over and over and over again when I was a kid. Basically, you have to be a Jedi to be a good artist. Yeah. You need balance. Oh, well, thank you for saying you won't do that again, Cassio. I'm sure everybody appreciates it. I sure do. You're good, man. We all have moments we get a little loopy. Sometimes you just gotta look inside and be like, am I being a little manic right now? I'm being a little manic right now. I've been there, dude. I felt that timing myself with studies hasn't been helping me focus on the drawing and focusing. I haven't been timing myself anymore and just focus more. Good. Do what works for you. Do what works for you. And what can you do if you don't have any imagination? You have imagination. You just need to, just open the doors that allow your imagination to flow into something. The place I usually advise people to start looking for that is there's probably some part of your life that you are really interested in, right? Maybe it's cars, fishing, or spirituality, or nature, or something like that. There's some part of your life that you're very interested in that you assume doesn't belong in the art. Just turn off that assumption. Just turn that off and see what happens. Start there. Do you think your first month's drawings are the hardest when you are starting from the zero? I think starting like raw off the bat, it's hard for a little bit in the beginning. And then I think very quickly you start getting the beginner gains, and that is the best time in drawing. Not everybody gets them. Some people have a more linear progression, but a lot of people get serious beginner gains for drawing, and enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. When you've been doing it as long as I have, it takes, for me to level up, I need like 1 billion XP points to get to the next level. It takes a really long time. The diminishing returns are intense. Can you repeat the name of the book for me? It's Drawing People, How to Portray the Clothed Figure by Barbara Bradley. One of my favorite things you said is that drawing doesn't have to be hurt or be boring. Your answer made me think of that again. Yeah. Drawing's wide open. It's the stuff that people say, and schools and culture and industry that make us think drawing is supposed to be something particular. It's not. It is wide open. So of course, because it's wide open, it doesn't have to hurt or be boring. If you're the kind of person who wants that, right? Some people want it to hurt. Some people want it to be boot camp because it's like an ego trip for them or something like that. they're just the kind of person who needs that, you know? Different trips for different people. But it doesn't need to be the same for everybody. The whole spectrum of artistic experience is on the table, and it's better that there is a vast variety to the ways that artists experience art. It's wide open. The thing is that you have aphantasia, forging mental images is kind of not a thing. Well, that's not necessarily, that doesn't limit you from being creative. You don't need to see things in your head. Like this demon that I'm drawing, I didn't visualize him before I did this whole picture. I just reacted to the last thing that I did. Put down one line, next line is a reaction to that, next one is a reaction to that. Put down a color, next color is a reaction to that, next color is a reaction to that. I haven't visualized this guy in my head at all throughout this whole process. I'm just reacting to what shows up on the paper. Your creativity is more ideas, and ideas have no form. They're not mental images. They're not necessarily linguistic images. They're not necessarily emotional formations. They are some concatenation of all of those things in various proportions and flavors. All right, peeps. I've been on here for a good old while here. We did good work here. We'll pick this up next time. I think someone back there asked me when they'll know when I'm streaming. There's no way. I'll only stream if I can just do it whenever I'm ready. You know, if I have to like tweet before it, make an Instagram post before it, there'll be just enough resistance that I won't do it. So I just like to just, you know what, I could do this next step on stream, hit the button, there we go. So there's no real schedule or anything like that, but I have a good available space for it for the next several weeks. So I think I'll be doing, I'll be streaming more often for the next few weeks. All right, people, I'm gonna head out. Sorry to any questions that I left hanging. I'll try to get you next time. As a general answer to everyone's questions, don't worry about it. Just keep drawing. Just keep drawing. Bye, everyone. Take care. Thanks for being here. I hope you drew, and if you're gonna keep drawing today, good luck. Enjoy your drawing. Talk soon.